Who are you? I don't say to you, hi, I'm Chuck. Let's ask for guidance in how we're going to handle the day. You can do that if you want to, but it's absolutely meaningless. You've already decided that you're going to be in association with that. When you go to teach this, they will always fall into mechanistic defense. This is what happens. Justification for the idea of spiritual progress. There's no such thing. Justification for a spiritual path. There's no such thing. Jesus says in the Course, anyone on a spiritual path has got his hands over his eyes. This is what you're trying to do. You can't do it. That's what he says. I mean, if there's a spiritual path and you're looking for God, why do you need guidance in finding God? It's senseless. You don't need guidance to find God, and anything that needs guidance is not real. Be glad. What if you really were separated and needed true guidance to get to God? God would have to acknowledge that you were really separated from Him. Who are you asking guidance from? Your own whole self. Because you must know the ultimate answer. That you call that the Holy Spirit. Do I tell you not to ask? I don't care, but you're only going to get the result that you want. I went in a circle. All power is given unto you in heaven and earth. That's not a big deal. That's what you are. Can you go out and teach this? I don't know. I think I teach as an experience and try to stay out of the repartee. It's meaningless. I allow questions in addressing because there's some very fundamental necessities in the admission of what this really says. That's why I came here. I want you to look at what this says and stop trying to define it in your limited associations. Okay? It just simply says this isn't real. How many times does it say this isn't real? What, 30, 40? Will you come to know that this isn't real? Sure. How else would you be able to ask, is this real? You must have come to the conclusion, right? Okay. This has been a very eventful occurrence, and we're going to have a little quiet time now. Boy, a lot of you guys are really familiar to me. See how quickly we get familiar? This initial purpose is what we call a sorting out. Okay? What I'm telling you is true. It's a little bit, we used to call it sorting the wheat from the chaff. Okay, because this message is real high. If you want to hear this message, it'll be very easy for you to hear. If you don't want to hear it, it simply means that you're in a choice of a situation where you are still deriving satisfaction from your limited associations, which are death. Wouldn't that have to be true? And as long as you continue to do that, you won't hear this message. All I'm really doing, and now we're going to have a quiet time, is to encourage you, this is called speeding up time now, is to encourage you to look at your problem. Okay? And ask me how you're solving it. You're going to have to tell me I'm solving it by death or by my associations, and I'm going to tell you that won't solve the problem. When you have tried enough to solve the problem and have not been successful, you will begin to hear this. Why? Because this is the only solution. There is no solution but this. If sickness and death and the earth are real, there is no God. This is a sentence right out of the Course. If there is a God and wholeness, then the earth, sickness, and pain and death are not real. There's no sense in equivocating this if you're going to attempt to teach it. These two things do not know each other. If you attempt to formulate reality based on your conceptual associations with death, you will fail because concepts are not real. That's how simple this is. So now the psychology is to relinquish your own possessions. If you are possessed, if you are the devil, you are holding on to idols or thought forms in your own mind that constitute your reality. And you cherish them and you give them value. I am teaching you to be dispossessed. How do you do that? Give it away. I don't want to leave you, I didn't do this, and I know this is the part you hate to hear the most. If you want to do this, finally, and it can't be defined, you're going to have to give away your own idolatry, your own association with yourself. You can't get it any other way. Okay? Yes?
Since you're already awakened, that means that you make the choice to leave your body when you're furthering with your mind. What happens to your body?
My body's not here. There isn't any such thing as a body. People have the idea that in the future you can lay your body down. That's crazy. Why? How would you, if you can't lay it down now, when would you lay it down?
How does it look to your family? You just say, God.
You mean, how does it look to your family? Are you going to trick the old man here? I was in, I'll tell my story sometime when you come back, if you come back to, I was in a very social situation when I started into my awakening. Did it create problems? Oh. But you have problems anyway. If you're going to have problems, boy, have them going to God. That's all I can tell you. How long is it going to last? Just long enough for you to see that you can't escape anything by disassociation. See, a lot of you get a little piece of this and you think, to hell with it. The Course teaches me to give up my family and throw everything away and go to heaven. And the Course doesn't teach that at all. The Course teaches you only to give up your whole self, and definitions of what that is are what the falsity is. Okay, you can make mistakes and you can finally say, I find myself in an impossible situation. Why? You've changed your own mind and you no longer where you were last week. Now the question is, are you going to allow that previous association to hold you in the bondage through the obligation and guilt that you feel by your former karma? That's a problem for you. Do you hear me? Because what? You're in, all relationships here are special. Fortunately, there's such a thing as a miracle. Fortunately, it's going to work despite you, and fortunately, not in the manner in which you thought it would work. Never! The manner in you constructed it to work contained the falsity of your need to disassociate and re-illusion. Nothing ever happens for the reasons that you think it does. When you released your possessive specialness, okay, which wasn't real in the first place, there was a whole reformulation, including that consciousness, to the full benefit of the harmony contained in reality. This is the miracle, guys. Motivated action is death, of course. All action is death. You need do nothing but change your mind. Okay? Now, that may appear to be conflictual, but it's always been conflictual. You've always just buried it. You say, well, how much of this am I going to have to go through? I don't the situation I'm in now. I've got children and a grandfather, and I love them all, and you're going to take that away from me? No. But I think that you ought to look at what's happening in that association. Okay, what you have constructed in your family unit in order to attack God. Why? They're the constructs of your mind. Jesus says he says you got to hate your brother and all. I don't tell you that. But I want to give you the total love of you and then ask, why are you doing it? Will the miracle work if you do this? It must work because your perceptual mind is what the obstruction is. Okay? Can that be demonstrated here? Sure. Sure. The reason it works perfectly is because it's perfect. Each moment, everything you're doing is bringing you to paradise. You're the one that insists on sequencing it in your mind. Do you want to grow up and get cancer and get old and die? Well, then don't. You say, well, I'm caught up in things that formerly thought that I had to do this, that I'm associated with. That'll be all right. You make the commitment, all right? You say, no, remember, this is a power of your own mind. No, I want to do this. May that cause of what you think classify as a disillusionment? I don't know, but anything that can be re-illusioned wasn't true in the first place. And you were determined to make it true within your own framework. There's some lovely things in the Course that says, you let the dead bury the dead. Remember that the responsibility you feel for this is an attack on God. I'm tired of tough talk here. Obviously, this idea of friendship and all that is a direct attack on reality. Why? Because it results in death. So it appears to you that I'm taking away the things that you love. But you love them only to what? To suffer the loneliness and pain in association with the love. Could you just once love them totally? Yes, but you'd have to do it with no judgment, and then you could never lose them because you've lost judgment of yourself. And you're no longer participating in the exchange. Whenever you begin to talk this way, it's always because you forgot that there is a God and a miracle in truth, right? And that this is your dream. And that includes me. And all we're really going to do here now is dream a whole dream together. Yes. Can you do that? What would stop you? Did you do it? You're doing it now. Is it inevitable that you do it? Everything is inevitable. Be glad. That way you don't have to decide whether it has value or not. Are you ready? One more sentence and I swear I'm going to stop. I'm giving you to right out of the Course. Everything should have total value, is worth total valuing, or it has no value at all. Now you got no problem. You just value everything perfectly. But to do that, you got to not judge it. And if you don't judge it and value everything, you say, you're crazy. You turn into a Job, the Lord strikes you down and you say, thank you, Lord. That's progress, though, huh? That you still think there's a sacrifice connected with your determination to find it. Jesus would teach you there's no such thing as sacrifice. It doesn't cost you anything to be with God because that's where you are. Does this appear to be a complicated and difficult message? Of course, to those who want to complicate it, because I'm taking all of these, what am I really saying? You ready? I'm saying the same thing over and over again. I never say anything but what I'm saying. Every time I speak, I'm saying exactly the same thing as I always say. I'm just trying to penetrate your perceptual associations with what I'm saying. If you open up a book, all you're determined is to hold on what you thought was true last week is true today, and you're full of crap. Everything that you brought in here was absolutely meaningless. That's what salvation is. The whole teaching is to come here naked. To come here without the judgment, so that's why I say come here just as you are and let it be. Don't try to judge this in association with your previous things. That's hard to do. Why? Well, I'll lose my identity. Yeah. But it starts to work and I get scared. Because suddenly I begin to feel these strange things happening to me, and I'll lose my mind. No, you'll find your mind. You've already lost it in your own mind. What you classify as paranoia, schizophrenia, manic depression, and all that are all efforts of reality to penetrate your shell of denial, without exception. I'll give you a talk on that sometime. Isn't that nice to know? You feel paranoia because there's a lot of things around you all the time. When you expand your consciousness, you really get the feeling that something is around you, and you're absolutely right. And that scares you, so you take a drug to bring yourself down out of the fear that you have every right to feel because there's things around you that can hurt you. Obviously, the whole Course is nothing but a lesson in schizophrenia. It's the idea of a split mind, one of which is whole and the other isn't, and they are in conflict. Manic depression is what I teach. I teach you to be totally depressed so you can enter the mania side of your reality, all right? Until you really become totally depressed. When I used to teach this, I gotta stop here, I'm getting tired. I used to teach this when somebody would express depression to me, I'd say, go into your total depression. Don't try to recover from it. You wanna write that down? That's important. Don't attempt to recover from it. Go through it. If you're going to experience the pain of your bottom, let your bottom come whole again with you. That's the quickest way to get out of it. If you cover it, you'll remain with a defiled altar that you're fearful to look at. You'll then construct your reality on being unwilling to look at the fateful moment that brought you into this in the first place. Do you hear this? What's the difference in bottoms? It seems like I paid all my dues and then I ought to be able to. You're not the judge of it. Wow. I sometimes tie this in with the 12-step program because that's why I got this, and boy, does it tie in with it. I'm going to make a comment about the 12-step program in case somebody's listening to this. There's a point where it's necessary for the consciousness who is an addict to reassociate himself in a new factor of his determination that he's powerless over something, and that by asking for help he receives it. This is the Course in Miracles. It may very well be necessary at that point for him to have a re-identification, say, as a recovered addict, because that's a statement of the wholeness of him in that association. It's a discovery of himself. If there's any dichotomy between the Course in Miracles and the 12-step program, I want to get this on the tape, it's that I am teaching you that all identities are false. Okay? So that if you're working a program that says, I am a recovered addict or I'm a recovering alcoholic, it's very important that you keep that identity so that you won't fall into the temptation of the original powerlessness that you could not exercise over the drug. And in that sense, having paid my dues again in this regard, all I can really offer you is this. All 12-step programs that are real programs are spiritual because it is a totally spiritual program, and it has nothing to do with self-identity, but with the relinquishment of the identity. And then it'll come together real good for you.